At this time, I'll call our meeting to order. I'm going to ask Chaplain Mitchell if he'll lead us all in the invocation to start this meeting and our budget process. So if you will, all please rise.
You want the good chaplain or the bad chaplain? Let us pray. Almighty God, we're grateful and thankful for this day. We thank you, O God, for your protection for our town, our citizens, our town staff, our first responders, our law enforcement, our firefighters. We thank you, O God, and ask you to bless this governing body. We ask you to lead us and guide us into sound deliberation that's good for all in this community. We ask these blessings of you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. We'll do the pledge. We'll do the pledge
Okay.
at the next meeting.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna, Joanne, do you know how to make this silent? I don't know how to, it's my new iPhone, and I don't know how to do it. All right, at this time, the reason for our meeting today is for a budget workshop, and what we're gonna do, I was, asked to go through the method that we did last year, and they want to go page by page with any questions that are on that page, and as we move forward. And so my thoughts are we will start with,
I have no idea.
Tab by tab.
That's
kind of tab by tab. So we're actually, any questions, sir?
Before
Yeah.
we start, I want to explain something that was passed out to you. If you recall, when I gave the budget message in the last board meeting, I talked about two options. One was the extra amount of fund balance that we have recommended and typically don't utilize, somewhere around $1,000. And another option that's tied to, I'm gonna whisper, where tax increase. And so, if the board is interested in a tax increase, what you have here is a full breakdown on what that would entail. It breaks down from a property tax standpoint, the amount of revenue that we created from a 1 cent, 2 cent, 3 cent, and 4 cent tax increase. Provides the average home price in Hope Mills from the average price of $219,000, home prices at $175,000, and home prices at $300,000. And it also breaks down benefits that we would get in relation to operating costs. Drew will also tell you now about some pretty good news that we found out about since the budget book was passed out to you in reference to what we thought was a cap that was in place tied to the annual tax increase.
Okay, so there's two things that have changed since you got your budget book 2 weeks ago. One is, I talked with the county finance director, who explained to me how the sales tax agreement is going to work for the actual sales tax. Remember, it said in that contract that the sales tax would be capped at the fiscal year 22's amount, and that any growth in sales tax would go to the county. So pretty much it would freeze our sales tax as of last year's amount, which would reduce our budget anywhere between the $300,000 to $500,000 for each budget year for sales tax growth. What I found out was the only part that froze was those small distributions we get from Fayetteville, Spring Lake, and
Godwin.
what's the third, Godwin. That's all that has been froze or capped for fiscal year 22, which the county finance director didn't know that. I didn't know that because when you read the contract, it just says any growth in sales tax, will go to the county. She said it's only for that agreement that we had for those three towns. Those three amounts are capped. So that means we're still getting our sales tax growth for next year and year after that. Now, come year 3 is
It's
when
when it
the
hits us.
distribution actually changes to ad valorem. So, Chancellor and I discussed it, since you already had the budget balanced with the frozen sales tax amount, we've got an option that we want to propose to you, but there was another change that happened in the last 2 weeks that also gives us an opportunity for next year's budget. In the agenda for tonight on consent, we're going to ask that you approve a 2-month extension to July 13th of the loan for the public safety building. This isn't extending the construction or anything like that. It's extending the loan closing
Right.
from this Friday to July 13th.
Mhm.
What extending that closing does is the first debt payment is a year from the closing date.
Mhm.
So instead of next May being the first payment, it's going to be next July, which doesn't put it in this budget.
Right.
Puts it in the budget after that.
Mhm.
So that saves us another about $550,000 for this particular budget.
Get this.
We still have to do it, but it delays it by 1 year.
Right.
So it saves us that much.
Mhm.
So if we take that debt payment out of this budget, that extra amount that we put needing from fund balance to 533,000,
Mhm.
we don't need that anymore for this budget.
Okay.
Okay, so that saves all that money, and we have extra money we know that we're gonna be getting from the sales tax.
Mhm.
So it gives us the opportunity, one of y'all mentioned when we were talking about the sales tax distribution, I think it was Joanne, mentioned if we knew we had the potential that this sales tax thing was gonna end, why didn't we prepare for this in the past to be ready for it now? We have the opportunity to prepare for 2 years from now because of these two changes.
Right.
So what we've decided to do after discussion and present to you is, instead of budgeting for that sales tax amount, any increase that we get, we'll put it into reserves, put it in fund balance to save, because we know we're gonna have to have it in year 3 because we're gonna lose 1.8 million.
Right.
We know that already. And then this debt being delayed back, all it does is buy us next year. We don't have to use in reserves now.
Okay.
So we gave you the option also for property tax increase based on this sheet. At the town's, at the board's discretion, if we were to increase any property tax, we would do the same thing with it. We would either put it directly to some of these department needs, or we could also put that money directly into savings or reserves to help offset where we're gonna have that, I don't wanna say it's a deficit, it's just be a reduction
Shortfall.
in revenues.
Right.
2 years from now.
Mhm.
So it would just be setting back money to be prepared for year 3, when we know we're gonna need those funds.
All right.
So we have a good opportunity here. So those are 2 things that happen that's gonna definitely help out our budget for next year and the future.
Madam Mayor.
Yeah.
But what I'm getting ready to say, she noticed already. What is the best course of action? What do you recommend we do, based on everything you just told us?
We talked about 50 different.
I know what you did, but I'm saying, what the best course of action?
My opinion would be, the amount that we were asking.
No opinion. Best course of action.
And put every, other amount in reserves, and what that does is allows us to build up our reserves, so in 3 years, we got some more creative things we're trying to do in the rebound year, and we're trying to create a situation where there is no shortfall. There is no tax. And we were able, this is the key, we were able to balance this budget prior to knowing what the update was with the tax. So that was another thing, we didn't have to gut our departments, we didn't have to produce very much, cost any reduction of services. So these are pluses that we feel that are beneficial to the town, but instead of putting it back into this year's budget, let's move it to the year that we do know we're gonna hit that short.
Instead of having using the reserves to balance this budget, since we had these 2 changes, we don't have to do that. But let's go ahead, that increase in sales tax, since it's balanced, let's put that money aside. If we choose to increase property taxes, same thing. The extra money we receive from that, we're gonna put it aside. It's gonna sit in fund balance. So 3 years from now, when we have to come up with 1.8, close to $2 million worth, we'll be able to absorb that. Plus, if you notice the fee schedule, a lot of development fees are increasing. So we're hoping, since sales tax right now is our highest revenue increase from year to year, that's not gonna happen anymore. It's gonna be property taxes and development fees. So we're gearing towards that change by increasing the development fees, the potential of possibly increasing some property tax, and between those 2 options, or a simulation of some of both, then we can have these reserves set aside, so it won't be so much of an impact for you.
And what this does is, there's such a negative connotation with a tax increase, but what this does is it actually breaks it down. If you do a full 4-cent comes out to about $88 annually on your taxes.
For an average house in
For an average house.
Right.
So to some people who feel that that is almost like a doomsday, it really explains it out.
I'm
Right.
below
in a
average.
way that softens the hit that they pay, but it also explains to you the benefits we get in terms of actually operating costs and things of that nature that we benefit from.
Mayor, I have a question.
Yeah.
I think we answered this before, but I'll ask the question again. When was the last time we had a tax increase?
I've been here going on nine and a half.
10+ years.
It was probably 10, 11 years ago. We
Yes.
had 2 cents, and that was.
So I was still in the Army at that time.
No, we
I
raised,
was.
Mayor, we raised, the last tax increase was 4 cents. We did it the first year I was on this board because the town was at a deficit, and we were in a situation where we had to have that funding for operation. My whole problem with a tax increase on the homeowner and everything is, if you're sitting here telling me due to these changes, we have a balanced budget with no tax increase, and you're just wanting to bankroll this tax increase, there's no way you're going to sell it to the average homeowner that's struggling right now to put gas in their vehicle, food on their table, make a house payment, make insurance payments, and make all that, to tell me you're going to take my money and just put it in a savings account. Now, if we needed that tax increase for personnel so nobody would lose a job, or if we needed that tax increase so we had to keep the lights on and we were in such a deficit, I can understand it. But don't bring me a tax increase on the backs of the homeowners of this town, which I am one of them, and tell me you're going to just bankroll that money. I am not in favor of that. 100% I am not in favor of that. And I will not vote. I'll tell you right now, I will not vote for a budget that has a tax increase with it.
Madam
will
Mayor,
not do it.
I disagree with Commissioner Marley because you do not want to get in a position where you're about to get the lights turned off and you have not raised taxes in over 12 years. And when you do a tax increase, it's so large that it really will take a hit for the average homeowner. One of the common themes that I saw in our book is fleet. It's aging. So we're sitting here nickel and diming whether people get vehicles to do their jobs. That's where we are. And positions where this town is growing at a speed where we do not have adequate staffing. Let's be clear with that. We do not have adequate staffing. We are probably working people really hard to do what we're going to do, but we do not have adequate staffing to meet the growth of this town. As a taxpayer myself, I do not want to do that to the average citizen, but it is not sustainable. As we have reached out to the state legislators for funding, one of the number one things they ask is, have you raised taxes? So you asking for money, but you will not do a tax increase and have not raised one in over 10 years. Same thing with City of Fayetteville. You want to do a partnership with transportation, but you haven't raised your taxes, but you want us to help you. So you have to show that you're helping yourself before you go reaching out to all of these other people for money. So I just feel like it's not sustainable, and I feel like we're going to wait so long that if we don't increase it, it is going to hit our taxpayers very hard.
I will add that, I think my understanding of the conversation with the county was we were asking for the extension of the Avalon. We were asking for 5 years. The main thing they kept asking about is when have we actually
Let's raise.
I'm not saying that that's not something that the residents don't need to be concerned about, but I think as you said, Dr. Mayor Patricia Gray, I don't wanna get to where the lights are getting cut off. We're trying to be forward thinking here, and we wrestle with this tremendously. And we feel that doing this while increasing our fee schedules, while making cuts we can make and still have an operating department and doing a tax increase, it's a multi-pronged approach to where we're sharing in some of that as well. But I do feel that we don't want to get to the point where the only option left is to do a tax increase, because what you may have is a situation where it's such a dire situation, the tax increase has to be massive in order to be able to make it in the amount of money that we need.
Madam Mayor, I'm sorry,
sir.
go
You
ahead.
go ahead, no, you go ahead. You got the floor, man.
Have we even approached the General Assembly or anyone else about the possibility of a sales tax increase instead of a property tax increase? Because we've got a lot of people that,
I couldn't figure out how to
Yes.
shut it off.
shop in Hope Mills
Just turn the volume down.
and they don't, they don't pay us a property tax, but they chop in Hope Mills. So is there something we can do to spread it out to everyone, not just Hope Mills residents?
Yes, I agree with that.
But I'm sorry.
I have to go with the settings, that's why I couldn't figure it out.
General Assembly doesn't split up taxes by where things are purchased.
Right.
It's by the county, and over the years, I've seen it happen in other places. They are reluctant to make a tax increase on one county and not make it across the board. I don't know of any.
Right, they say your first prerogative is property tax.
Yep.
And why haven't you done that before we go through this process for sales tax? Because that has to go through, like you said, the General Assembly has to approve it. And it's
That's
countywide.
Yeah.
We can't do it just for Hope Mills.
Mayor.
We have to convince Cumberland County and all the other towns to.
So
Yes,
I understand everybody's comments and I appreciate them, and I understand you want to bankroll this money so for future, and I get that. My problem and my heartburn and my heartache with it is we're telling the citizens of town, we're going to increase your taxes, you're going to pay more money, and by the way, we're going to bankroll it. We're not doing anything with it right now. If you can show the taxpayer where you're increasing their taxes, but show them where they're getting the service for it and getting benefits of it right off, I wouldn't have as much problem with that. But just to say that, I mean, I just don't, I understand both sides of it, but it's hard to sell a tax increase to the citizens. If you've never been on this board and increased taxes on the residents in this town, Mr. Legg knows, Ms. Warner knows, and I know, because I'm telling you, we raised it 4 cents, and the only reason why we raised it 4 cents was because previous boards had cut the tax rate by 4 cents, and you'd have thought that it was the end of the world to this town, and people were up in arms, and I'm telling you, you cannot sell a tax increase to the general public by telling them you're going to put it in a savings account. That we don't need it right now, but we're going to just put it in a savings account over here. Just show me what services it's going to be for. Even if you had to show in the future, hey, in the future, if we raise the taxes now, we can get this many people in 2 years from now.
Madam
We're going to
Mayor?
increase
Let me
these
get this
departments.
one.
Okay.
Madam Mayor, if you don't mind me, being honest with y'all, I have rode around with Chancellor a couple of times, and I looked at the expanding areas that we have responsibility for. And be honest with you, we already in the hole. Based on what we are already in the hole. I'm telling y'all right now. Don them is gonna need new vehicles because how old is your newest trash truck, Don? 14. That truck don't have too many more legs on it. It don't have too many more miles on it. The police department has expanded areas. Every time we annex property, we increase their expanded range. Fire department, we have increased the range. Every citizen that comes to work every day, be honest with you, is grossly underpaid. Underpaid. So let's say that we're not taking that money and put in a residual or reserve income. We need that money now to make the salaries compatible, to even give incentive to our employees that does a great and awesome job. Fuel costs, and technically, if we was keeping track of our consumption rate, our fuel cost is probably more than what we allocate funds for every year. It's because fuel cost is based on consumption, and it's hard to keep track of what fuel is going to cost you without constant consumption. Police department, fire department, they are at high peak every time they have to roll out an emergency situation. That increases the fuel consumption rate, which increases the cost. So we don't have to look at it as being residual income. We look at it income that is needed now. So we change that language so that the people will know that the funding is needed now, not to put over and hold for the rain that's coming, because hell, the rain is coming. I don't care how much money we get, the rain is still gonna come. You know, what are we gonna do now to take care of our staff and the citizens in this town now?
Mayor Warner?
Yes.
I'd also like to add is, Chief, how many police positions do you need filled?
Projection.
Currently.
Currently, we have two openings, well, that are scheduled to be filled already. But with the national average that I gave you, that would put us at what we're allotted for right now. But average-wise, we'd be 9 short for what it would be.
Right.
for the population as it is now.
That's what I thought I saw. The fire department said that they could not make the cuts that we were asking to do. It was it 5%, and they.
Yes, ma'am, everything is below the low health departments in the county that are supplemented by the association.
I saw that we're down a person in HR. I saw where we had to do salary adjustments for both of the Megans, so we couldn't like open certain positions. So there was like salary increases with some of them, so they could take on extra job responsibilities. The victim advocate position, and it was another position that's related over to the police department where people were getting supplemental income because we could not pay to get other positions, so we were giving them some small salary increase to do the added duties that we need to get done. One of the biggest complaints, and I've said this since I've been on our board, is our code enforcement, but we have one vehicle with at least 2 code enforcement people right now. So I agree with Commissioner Mitchell. I feel like we already behind.
And to add to that, code enforcement, we were requesting a third position, we cut that. We were requesting 2 cars, we cut one of those. I explained at the budget season, we had a truck, we had a catalytic converter that was stolen, and we put $3,000 to $6,000 in the car with a chemical bag, with blue book value of $1,200.
Yeah.
But we didn't ask for a second truck, we're actually using the best truck we have and buying one additional. We were asking for a second planner, we cut that position. We were asking for a deputy clerk, we cut that position. So please understand, before we came to you guys, we cut everything
Yeah.
we had.
Short now.
Then we balanced the budget, and then we came to you. So we're not doing this in a vacuum, and I'll say it again, $1.9 million is coming. It's coming.
Yep.
Whether we like it or not, in 2 years, $1.9 million is coming. And one of the main things I kept hearing was they have been extending the Avalon for 15, 20
Yeah.
years. Nobody was raising taxes. We either gonna have that conversation now, or we're gonna have it in 2 years, where we're now having to cut 1.9 as opposed to getting creative while we're having about a 2-year window to generate some revenue. So hopefully, 1.9 will be absorbed as opposed to us not doing anything. But I'm not sure of a way that we can move forward on the lowest level we have now without doing any tax increase. And then we get to 1.9 million shortfall, we don't do a tax increase. I'm not sure how else we're supposed to balance this budget and move forward and provide a premium level of services. Because what you also are overlooking, we have a lot of department heads that are retiring in the next couple of years.
Yeah, that's another
So
thing.
there's a lot of things that's going on. We're trying to really maneuver some chess pieces, and it's just a situation where we pointed out with this, not only does the tax increase hit the actual citizens, it allows us to possibly start filling some of these gaps that we have, so that the services, because the one thing we were left with these cuts is that we were not able, we didn't have to cut services. When we start saying we're not doing a trash pickup but once every
Yeah.
month, when they were saying we're not doing mosquito spraying. Now all of a sudden, because to save money, we can't provide
Right.
services. That's when it becomes an end game as well. So I don't think there's any
Madam Mayor?
likable answers here, but it's a tough decision.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Mayor? And one thing that I know people are not going to say, it's an election year. And
Yeah.
so they're, they're afraid of, well, there blows my chance at reelection, but we have to be realistic too. I mean, we can't afford, champagne taste on a beer budget.
right.
We have, we can't keep, cutting operations, cutting people just to try to, make the budget. Because when I approached you, what was it, a few days ago, and I asked you, I was like, why does it seem like the general fund's balancing the budget? And you had said, you didn't want to use the word tax increase. I'm like, but it's going to have to happen. Either we do it now and do a small one, or we're going to have to do a really large one. And I'm probably the poorest person on this board. Well, so you too. But I mean, seriously, I mean, I'm probably one of the poorest people in this room. And I don't like a tax increase, but I know it's realistic and that we haven't had one in years. And we can't sustain our operations without one.
Madam Mayor,
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I was sitting just listening to Chancellor talk and listening to everybody talk. 3 years from now, we're going to look at a 1 point. Let me ask, you know what? By then, I know it's 1.8. It's going to probably be 1.9. Matters with a $2 million shortfall. Now, the citizens, I think, will understand, and when they can visually see what a $2 million shortfall, what impact would have in this town, the loss of services, the loss of positions. See, they need to see that. They need to see the real numbers. They really need to see 3 years from now, right now, impact, little at a time, or down the road, a big piece at a time. And they need to understand failure is not an option, because we was elected to be good stewards of the town's resources. And that's everything under the town. Staff, equipment, liquid, sticks, doesn't matter. That is our responsibility. Whether our citizens like, no matter whether they can like the tax increase or not, they want the services. They got to understand that nothing in this nation is free now. And I'm telling you now, I don't know how many of y'all watch economic channels and stuff like that. There's getting ready to be a major hit. All these little nice grant funds we've been enjoying for the last 5 years, I'm telling you now, they're gone. They're gone. So we need to move now, or we're gonna pay for it 3-5 years from down the road.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I know I'm beating the dead horse here, but just like you explained it and everything, and how Mr. Mitchell said and everything, that's how we need to put it out. I mean,
Yeah.
we all understand it on this board. We all understand what you're saying. There's nobody from the public in here. All they're gonna hear is a tax increase.
Yep.
They're not gonna know what kind of campaign, what kind of notices have we sent out to educate the citizens of this town as to a tax increase and what it's for. I can sell to the public what that tax increase is for with what you're saying and the shortfalls and everything. But I can't when the finance director, pardon, don't take it in the field, but the finance director and the town manager sit here telling us they just want to bankroll a tax increase. We understand what you're saying.
Yes.
The public doesn't. We have to sell that. And for us here on this board, we have to be able to sell that to that person who comes at us, because they're going to come at us, and I got to have ammunition to fire back. I got to have something. Okay, well, this is what this tax increase is going to do for you. You know, you see what I'm getting at? I can't just vote for a tax increase that's going to, you know,
And-
the way
yeah.
it was presented as just bankrolling it.
Okay.
That's my
Yeah.
thing, and I'll show
Question I have for you. Every year that I've been mayor, we've had greater revenue than expenditures. Our ad valorem money has come in higher than what we anticipated. Our sales tax money, not just the county's piece, but our regular sales tax money has come in higher than we've anticipated. And if you look at the figures, you can see that. The other thing is, the only year that we've had a deficit, what we call that, was when we had to take a lot of money out of the fund balance, and I believe that was 2017, 2018, whatever year that was. Otherwise, we've pretty much kept fund balance intact because we've been able to, if we were going to have to use it, we didn't have to use it because we got increased revenues. My question is, with the amount of building that we have, the amount of commercial development we have you projected long range how much that increase is going to be just based on what we currently have? Because as you go around town, they build it, they sell it, people are moving in. I don't know when they start paying taxes, but my thoughts are we're missing that point too. And an average citizen is going to say every year you bring in more money because we're growing so fast. So we need an answer for that. We can't base it on and let the county commissioners take the blame because they've been giving us sales tax revenue all these years, basically because Fayetteville requested it when they did the Big Bang, and because they were giving it to Fayetteville, they had to give it to all the small towns. So that's what my question would be. Whether we need the sales tax, whether we need the tax, property tax, if we need it and we can justify it, but if we need it and we're bankrolling money that we didn't have to spend this year, then it's hard to justify. And so if you really look at the books, and I try to look at the books, what I see is, just like one year somebody said, well, can't guarantee sales tax that you're gonna get from the county. Every year, that tax has gone up. Same thing with our sales tax. Every year, it's gone up. So that's the only question I have. I'm not saying yay or nay either way. I'm just saying that that's another thing that we need to be able to explain to the average citizen that could look at this right here and say, well, look, every year they make more money.
That's true.
Are you looking at page 5?
I'm looking at page 5.
Okay.
Correction.
But I mean, I can go show you other pages, but I'm looking at this because this is what you
I'm looking
gave me
at
as,
the pie chart page and the historical 5-year
Mm-hmm.
comparison here on page 5 in the front of your budget book.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If you notice, fiscal year 19 and 20, we were in a deficit. We did have to use fund balance those years. But what we did was those were projects that were incomplete in previous years where the money was put in the fund balance, and then we used those to finish. So that was intentional, and we did use fund balance in order to do those projects. If you look 21, 22, in the estimate for the current year, we were able to put money back because we did get more revenues than anticipated. But we also control our expenses. We don't go for broke with
Right.
every department.
Right.
You know, even though their department, just say they've got,
Right.
you know, 1.2 million to spend for their department for a year, I don't anticipate they're gonna spend that entire 1.2.
Right.
That's an estimate. Some departments go over, some stay below, but overall for the whole year, you know, when you have a budget, you might say, well, that is my budget, I can spend that 1.2, but I'm not expecting them to. And probably in the next couple of weeks, we're gonna cut off purchase orders for this year.
Mm-hmm.
The only things that come out of this budget from that point on is, the have-tos and operational stuff just
Right.
to keep things moving.
Right.
So if you haven't bought it by June, you don't need it apparently this year. So it goes to next year. So I see what you're asking, Mayor, and to justify that and having about 300,000 put back into fund balance each year is actually a good amount to be able to put back into fund balance. But if we've got to come up with 1.9 million based on the future, and if you look at the property tax growth and how the sales tax growth outdoes the property tax growth, we've got to find out where's that difference coming from. Sales taxes, again, are the largest revenue increase from each year in property taxes. It's starting to be development fees. If you look at permits and fees, it's getting higher, and it's gonna have to be even more than that. But 1.9, if the last 3 years we've put back, just say it's $1 million between these three, 1.1 million. We've got to come up with 1.9 billion 2 years from now, and it took 3 years to just put back 1 million.
Right.
Madam Mayor.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. And I also like to say, next year we'll have to start making the payment back on the loan for this building. We need a Parks and
That will
Rec
start
building.
not this budget
But,
year,
but then,
next.
yeah, that's what I'm
Yeah, so
saying.
we'll have that additional $500,000 in.
We need a Parks and Rec building, and I don't know how everybody else feel. I don't feel comfortable with my public safety telling me they're gonna cut the funding to be subpar.
Right.
I want, with fire and police, I want to make sure. We just saw what happened in
right.
our community the other day. I want to make sure I'm safe. I don't want you to be doing subpar because you're trying to cut corners when it comes to that. So I just like to say that it's may not be the popular thing, but we hope it's the best thing. And I go back to my friends in Spring Lake. The stuff that happens to those budgets does not happen overnight. It happens over time. So even though it may not be the popular thing to do, and it's our job to try to educate people, and we hope that they support us with it, it is our job to try to project for the growth of this town to make sure that we're in an excellent position. And I do not feel like we are there now.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
let's assume that Chief come in to work. How many law enforcement on your force now, Chief?
I'm sorry, sir.
How many officers you have now?
Sworn 41.
41, and so you're fully staffed. You'll be at what, 43, 45, something like that. Just hypothetical.
That 41 is fully staffed.
Fully staffed, 41, and I've seen it happen before, cause it happened on my workforce. Half of them walked away because the other company offered them better pay. They only left for pay only. And now I could not meet my demands and need because the government said, hey, too bad. You signed the contract, said you can provide this. Same thing the police department. We said we can provide a service to them. And they said they left because of pay. Now we got to find a way to find someone in the budget to increase that pay to keep from losing our employees. So With a shortfall like that, you got to increase the officers' pay to what be competitive to keep them from living. That would put a major shortfall in our budget, wouldn't it? So we have to present that to the people so they can see what impact,
Mayor.
what negative impact it has on our community when we
Mayor.
can't staff
Yes.
properly.
Yes,
But keep in mind, we can't single out one department.
No, I'm just saying.
Everybody talks about
No,
police
Brian,
department,
no.
that's across the board.
Yeah.
No, I'm talking
yeah.
across the board. I'm using them because they're much more easier to identify. They really are. And the reason I said, but you talking about service, Parks and Recs, done service. Let's say this place shut down. They can't do trash and stuff like that. That's problem. You know. So I'm just saying, you know, we have to look at all those pictures. So we probably need to
I'd
come
like
back
to,
to this, revisit this, and
I
that's what I'm
agree
saying.
with Commissioner Mitchell. I mean, whenever we get ready to pass this budget, if a tax increase is needed, it's needed, but please bring it back to us with an explanation for the tax increase, not just saying that we're
Yes.
gonna put it aside
That'll work.
for future. You know what I'm saying? Give us the reasons why we got to do it. That's what I'm asking for.
We'll have questions.
Yes. Oh yeah. I mean, but it's easy.
so
Yes.
can we now,
We can move on.
let's move on
Yes.
because we've spent 40 minutes
But it's
discussing.
good discussion. I mean,
Yeah.
we got to get it.
We've
We
had
got
a
to get
good
it out.
discussion, but now we got to discuss what's right in
right.
front of you. All right, so we're gonna start,
They started it. They brought it
they
up.
started.
Yeah, yeah.
We're gonna go to, you wanna,
Let's get this party started.
Okay,
now.
let's go.
all right, we're gonna go to,
We can start on.
All right, tab 1 is revenue.
okay,
We kind of just discussed that.
okay,
All right.
okay.
On any of the revenues,
Nah, we leave that alone.
The only question I'll have is the same one I just had. Have we considered the projected income for those places that are just now getting residents in there? Projected property tax increase. And that's just because of, you know, and you might not be able to have an answer for that. That would just be something I think would be
the only thing that
informative.
makes it difficult to project past the reval year. I don't know what that's gonna hold and what reval's gonna do.
Yeah, but I still have to pay taxes if I just bought a house in Hope Mills. So if I bought my house for 300,000, I still got to pay taxes until that reeval year, and just pray that they don't evaluate it even higher. But that's the thing I think we need to consider, all those homes that we have that have been added to our inventory. And I mean actual, somebody moved in, having to pay taxes this coming year. Anything else you guys have on this page, since we have kind of beat this horse?
Madam Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I believe that any new home that we have built, the tax from that, it'd be a year before we recognize that tax.
Yes.
Yeah. Is there any questions on, if you look over, and this page isn't numbered, but it'd be the third page after that, which shows the actual valuation per county, and they're showing you the 2022, 2023, and then they're actually showing the 23, 24. Those are the increases that, that
Right, and if you
we've
look
realized
from
this year.
Last year to this year for property tax, based on the values, it grew $156,000. That's not enough.
No, no.
No, but I'm just saying, if
But
you
when
had the
look at sales tax
comparables.
from one year to the next, going up 350 to 400,000, and now that's gonna go away. So if we're only relying on property tax increase, it's not enough. to
No, it's not,
sustain
no.
the growth of the town right now.
And please explain to them, we get sales tax money, and then we get the additional sales tax money from the county. Is that correct, Mr. Holland?
Say that one more
We
time.
get sales tax money, and then we get sales tax money from the county based on this
Right.
percentage. So our allotment of sales tax, how has that been going up too? Or just our regular allotment?
Because we're getting it based on
Just on average
right
sales
now
tax?
per capita.
Okay,
When it changes to ad valorem, it's gonna go down drastically.
okay,
Not just year one that it changes.
Right.
The year after that.
okay.
Okay.
Because my understanding was that in case of Hope Mills, that we might see not as much a drastic change because of the growth, our per capita.
But right
Yes.
now.
We don't- it's unknown
I
right
can't
now.
calculate
Right.
that Until we get the reval, and I know what that new value is.
Okay,
One thing to point out, it's not 1.9 million for 2 years. That is the reduced level from that point forward.
Right.
Every year after that. And so, I don't want decide, I don't want people to decide of thinking that we're just preparing for 1 year hit.
Right.
Yeah, well, I think that was the explanation the county commissioners tried to give us, was that in the case of Hope Mills, our ad valorem amount is going to not make up that difference to start with, but in the long run, Hope Mills should be in a better
Right.
light than all the other municipalities, even Fayetteville, because of the amount of money that we're gonna get over what we used to get.
Right, our growth potential will then, in the future, since sales tax is going to ad valorem, not only will it benefit us property tax wise, it will also benefit us sales tax wise. So
Okay.
anytime we annex and anytime that we grow, in the future, it's gonna help us two different ways.
Okay.
Right, like a life
right.
insurance policy.
Any questions on any of these things behind tab, anything anybody's highlighted or concerned about behind tab one? Anything? None? All right, tab two,
That
this,
is debt, and the debt that's going away, if you look in the middle, the USDA JWH Public Safety Center principal and interest, the 273 and the 322, that is being pushed back in next year. So they will not be in next year's budget. If y'all approve that loan extension
Yeah.
tonight.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's gonna be good.
okay. Any other questions about the debt service? Okay. Next page is
General fund.
just general fund. Any
Tab
questions?
3 is governing body and administration
Okay.
and legal.
Okay, any questions on that?
The governing body is it's right here, right?
That's you.
So, training and travel, 11,000. I seen that. I just happened to see that. And of course the different costs in it. You have two categories of insurance. Those are one for 15,000, then one for 1,568. What is that?
Which number are you asking?
Insurance. Yes, both
That's
of them. Both
liability
insurance.
insurance for y'all. It goes up every year. So we had, this year it was 16,888. I'm anticipating it's gonna cost 17,200 next year.
I was gonna say, tons are not here anymore.
You have to have liability.
What does that cover exactly?
I know y'all didn't hear that, did y'all? Oh man, scratch that. Oh,
Okay.
Oh, my God.
historic preservation. Let me see. Something
Now,
like
as
that.
far as the travel and training for
Yes.
the administrative body, haven't we basically been less than?
Yes.
Because I know we haven't done a whole lot as far as
Oh, yeah.
going any place for instruction.
A lot of classes have been able to do virtual now
Yeah,
because of the pandemic. Now they can offer in-person or virtual. Virtual, you don't have to travel, hotel rooms, but you still get the class. So that's helping with some of the travel and training stuff.
okay.
What'd you say?
We don't know if they'll continue that.
Yeah, how long that'll continue.
Right.
Right now, it's an option.
Madam Mayor,
Yeah.
and I'm an advocate of that. I go to a conference
Right.
somewhere every year, and I think that all board members should. It gives you a chance to
Oh, yeah.
learn a lot of information. It gives you a chance to be exposed to things other than what's in Cumberland County and to network with a lot of people for a lot of different resources and a lot of different things. So I'm an advocate of elected officials participating in conferences and things where you can be trained.
You know, and I agree with all that good stuff. I'm just concerned, the main things I'm looking at. And I seen the notes about the election, historical preservation. What is that?
That's the historic committee line item.
Okay.
That's what they requested, $5,000.
What, but is it supposed to be under governing?
Is it
governing
does
body?
done the governing body?
That's
It's
where
always
it's, yeah,
It's just been there. We
yeah.
haven't moved it to Parks and Rec.
Yeah, it need to be
That's
moved.
just where the line item.
Well, and I believe that it's because used to, our committees didn't get money.
Right.
Right. Dues and-
They were allotted money and,
Right, if you look in your supporting documents here, what they submitted is in there,
okay.
in the backup.
Then I got two other ones, and that is the, what is it? Hold it back. I think it was, rental and leased equipment.
That's your,
You're looking under admin?
not government body, it's on, still on the government body, it says, come down, hold on, let me see. No, just had my finger on it, I had knots on this thing here.
Rental is on
For
down.
rental and lease, it's just above historical preservation, just
Yeah,
above.
there's no budget there for government.
Zero.
bodies.
Okay, it's just zero now, you know, I just happen to see it in there, I seen we had budgeted for it in the past, so that was a
We
question.
don't have y'all pay for the postage machine and the copy machine.
Okay.
At the building.
Okay, anything else under those professional services or anything under governing body administration? Okay. Boardroom sound system,
We put all that in the current year.
so we're covered on that one. It's coming soon?
Dana and I are emailing them,
We're working on it.
dating to get a start date on.
Okay, super. Okay, any questions on anything else?
Page
Okay, behind number 4 is the,
F4 is HR. Budget.
HR, that's number 4, right?
yeah,
Madam Mayor,
yes.
there was a comment about that risk and safety specialist that I wanted a little bit more information about. I
See.
think the information under there was a
He didn't
little.
recommend it though.
I know he didn't recommend it, but the stuff that they're saying is not happening. It's
That function, will still be done, it'll just, it'll be done, HR.
HR, right. You funded with the third position?
will not be.
Oh, okay, will not be.
Specialists and risk assessment, functions are being moved back to HR.
Mhm.
But with the second position she's acting for, then that's adequate.
Yes, I agree.
Okay.
Anything else under that one?
Good.
Okay, then you got, anybody else have anything under human resources that you got questions about? Okay, then we move to, finance.
F5 is finance. And I'll go ahead and tell you, I was able to lower the tax listings and collections. We renewed our contract with the county, and our current year collections rate is being cut in half. Any prior year collections that they do is all actually increasing, but we don't, as you see, our collection rate is usually in the 97, 98%. There's not a lot of prior year collections that has to be brought in, so we were able to significantly reduce the amount of what we have to pay for the county to collect the property.
Any questions on that group? Okay, let's go to tab 6. This is planning and economic development.
So
Good.
What we're doing with the vehicles in that department, in cutting one of them, we're trying to purchase a vehicle in this budget year. If we're able to do that, you'll see a budget amendment in June to cover that cost, but that saves us money. If we can get it this year. it
And
saves
what we
money
found
next
out
year.
is, one of the current trucks is in decent enough shape for us to transfer that truck to the newest public works funds and we purchase, a new truck. So while it additionally looked like 3 trucks were asking for it, we were asking for a third code enforcement officer. One of the sober things we had to do was cut the third position, so cut the third truck, cut the second truck, so we're just asking for the money for this truck.
What is the, special events?
That was for y'all last again to have the food truck rodeos.
Yes.
Thing.
More than likely, that'll be partnered with, Parks and Rec to do events, and so, my department didn't want them anymore. So in the event that there's something that, appears to come from a request from planning, that money will be utilized to
Right.
Parks and Rec.
Okay. And, Prime Movers, they have, 3,500 requests for 100 guests. Christmas and July Network.
We got 3 different
It has for
columns.
7,000, and we are recommending 5, because we're trying to do 5 across the board for committee.
Yeah.
That ain't gonna work. Okay. Someone in a check, but, so there's gonna be an adjustment then, yeah.
Yeah, they asked for 7, we give them 5, and, which is the cap. I will say, the Prime Movers, that's pretty much one of our top performing committees. We are in the process of streamlining some of the, committee liaison responsibilities, things of that nature, but, I do feel that their request at least to the 5,000.
And like we talked earlier, once they begin to combine some of these events and activities, that will greatly reduce the cost.
That is correct.
And they can raise money.
Yes, they
They're
can do fundraising.
501(c), so they can, well, that's what I'm saying, is they can offset their things by the money they can raise and accept donations.
That's all I have.
Is there any other questions on that section? Okay, let's move over to number 7. That's Public Works.
My biggest concern is that's gonna be enough fuel to meet the demands of Public Works, well, enough funds to
This
meet
is
that?
just one division of Public Works.
Mhm.
Is the, like, administrative.
Yes, I look at all of them, yes.
Yeah.
I'm talking about, as a whole, yes.
Any questions on this section?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
Mayor, with the gas prices fluctuating the way they are, what are we doing about that to try to meet the everyday demand? Because sometimes it's almost $4 a gallon, and the rest of the time it's $3 or a little below.
Yeah, I do know most of the, maintenance departments are buying trucks with the extended cab, so they don't have to take more than one vehicle. A lot of times, they can put 4 people in a vehicle and all ride together instead of taking 2 or 3 trucks and everybody, right? So all the new vehicles are able to hold more than 1 people and can hold the entire person.
Yeah, we ran into that a few years ago. It caught us flat-footed.
Yeah,
Is-
so that year that gas went up overnight,
Mhm.
got everybody.
Yeah.
We will have to do a budget amendment at one of the June meetings for police, for
Mhm.
fuel and for vehicle maintenance. You'll be seeing that at one
No.
of the meetings.
Got
Has there been any consideration for hybrid vehicles?
There is, but most of the hybrid vehicles aren't your large utility trucks,
Yeah,
things that.
because I know they're pushing for us to be more environmentally sound.
And the
I
maintenance
know,
costs.
and they would have to have places to plug them in too, but,
Yes, and
Okay.
maintenance, yes. Here's something to consider, I guess, to help kind of put you more closer range is probably, and based on the sales receipts, is look at the fuel consumption rate. You can pretty much get a gauge on it, how much each filling. You don't have to do it for a long period of time, for maybe a couple of months if it's possible. Hey, it's up to you all. But that way you give you a better idea of what the actual fuel cost is, and then you base the fuel amount on the total high end within the last 5 years. And we know there's been some high ends. And anything that you don't spend outside that range, you already hit the game.
any questions in this group?
Good.
All right, we're good. All right, let's move to tab 8, public buildings and grounds.
Tab 8 is for Public Works. You've got buildings and grounds and the service garage.
Moving right
Questions
along.
from anyone? Made it through this department? Ready to go to tab 9? Okay, tab 9, police department.
It's a big tab.
Question?
Yeah, let me see. K9, K9 supplies. What did, we gonna get another K9?
We've got 3 canines.
Okay.
Sorry.
Go ahead. No, you good.
Sorry, I thought you were asking me. I didn't
No, they good. No.
Yeah, we had two more dogs. We got the dogs completely donated.
Okay, that's-
We got all of them trained for free.
Wow.
And we get vet care and food for free. So this goes by maybe like, tracking harnesses, or,
Mhm.
collars or something like that. But, most of it, like I said, the dogs and all that stuff, they cost us nothing.
I mean, that's a good bargain there because is it still around $15,000 or more for? Yep, that's what it normally costs for a K9. For those of you that don't know that,
Come fully trained. they
fully
say.
trained, I'm
Yeah.
gonna tell you, and hey, $2,000 is a cheap price.
Amen.
We already discussed this one already on 29. Shortage.
And Madam Mayor.
Okay.
When I mentioned this earlier, I didn't mean to single out a department, but when you tell people that it's gonna take a police officer 30 extra minutes or something to get to your house, if something were to happen, those are very, those are easy things that people are able to see and understand. Same thing with fire. So those were the reasons why I brought those two up, as an example.
And you can see also, Madam Mayor, on this one page, and Chief, you always do a good job putting this stuff together, and it's make it easy to understand, to look at. But there's a $380,000 shortfall right there in itself. And that right there explains why we need the additional funding from somewhere, whether it's taxes or slingshot already, it don't matter. We still need it.
And those were probably some of the largest gaps that I
Yes.
also
Yeah.
saw.
You asked for 5 rifles,
Yes.
and that was cut in half.
Yep.
Is that gonna be equivalent to 2.5 rifles? Are you gonna be able to get 3?
Is that under the justification?
Now I'm looking,
And some of the
Yes,
first.
for 10 through and
Yeah, you asked for 10, get 5.
Okay.
Get another 5 next.
okay, so we can get 5 for 8,000.
Yes.
Okay, well, that was one of my, when I looked at this, I thought surely we didn't cut half of those rifles if we needed them. Yes, sir.
We're expecting somebody here.
We have,
These 2 guys just came up.
Yeah, this
yeah,
Fort
we
Bragg,
got
that's
Fort Bragg coming, but they know they're not till 7.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
know, military, we come real. We don't be late.
Anything else about the about police? Is there,
I think they're doing a fantastic job.
yeah? And the money they get from
Just one
drug,
question, Madam Mayor, I think.
Yeah.
No, I'll save
Okay.
it for later.
you save it?
Yeah, I'll save it for later.
Okay,
He's moving this, he put together a thick package.
yeah, you did
It's
a
a
good
budget
job.
myself.
Madam Mayor, I actually have a question.
Okay,
Now, I know for like the 911 call services is during the week, like, and then the weekends it goes through county. Have you ever looked at to see about it being full-time
County,
for Hope Mills?
I'm sorry, I'm not really understanding.
So like if a person calls 911 during the week, they're gonna get the Hope Mills,
No, ma'am.
no?
They get, it will be all of our dispatch services, 911 services are contracted through Cumberland County.
Okay.
and just because I'm aware of why it's that way, if we had to buy the computerized system and do everything as we grow, then what they realized was that having the 911 county system, then it covered Hope Mills, and then they were, in our case, our little holes where the deputies are called for, we still respond wherever they send us, but there are certain areas of Hope Mills that it's deputies or us, based on if it's not in the city limits. But that was the reasoning, was that we could not cost effectively purchase the necessary equipment once we outgrew our area. In other words, it used to be they'd call the police department right over there and they'd respond.
They switched technology where all municipalities in the state had to go to something called, it's SCNet is the thing. And to upgrade that equipment would have cost us in excess of $1 million or so. So it's cheaper to go.
Gotcha. Enough said.
Any other questions about the police, anything? Anybody want
I remember, Ms. Squirrel, I remember when they switched to that.
Yep.
We had a lot of unhappy people.
Yeah.
So they couldn't go straight to the police department.
Yep.
They want to talk to somebody there. Okay, and as we leave today, we still have an opportunity, if there's things that you want to request or suggest, they can send that to Mr. McLaughlin or to Mr. Holland. So the main thing is, this is giving an overview, but if there's something that comes to mind that you want to see different, you can always do that too. All right, behind tab 10 is the fire department.
And and yet again, here's another case where I think the fire department's asking for 18 million, they're only getting 16. It proves that we have a major funding shortfall.
One 1.6.
Huh?
Not 18 million. 1.8 million.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, 1.8 billion,
We are not that made of money. No.
yeah. But we're gonna get there one day.
Any questions about
Thank you for the
anything
correction
in this
there.
area? Okay,
It's the service we know we gotta have.
Yes, we gotta have it.
okay.
Sign
Column
ups.
11 is, tab 11 is inspections. And
Are they still, Kenny, you guys still short an employee?
No, sir, I'm not here commission. I hired another inspector. They started making this second.
Okay, good.
If I could, go to the podium and give them a view on how many inspections that you do. Kenny comes back with numbers, and I kinda want you guys to hear on a regular day with Kenny and Chris, with just the two we have now,
Yeah.
how many inspections they do.
I already compared it to Fayetteville and seen how it's, yeah.
Yeah, our department, state of our department, my department right now is that, I have one of my senior inspectors, he's on sick leave.
Mm.
And he's been cleared by the doctor to come back May 22nd. For how long he's gonna be here, I don't know. You know, cause this is a hard job. It's like a very physical demanding job. It's in the heat and what have you. Myself and the other inspector, Chris, he's a probationary level 1, and he's helped out tremendously. He's a go-getter. I wish I could find find 3 of us like them. We're average, and I hired another inspector. She starts May 22nd, and I got to train her. But right now, we're averaging, this time last year, we averaged about 240 inspections a month.
240?
A month. And we average about 300 permits a month. Right now, we're averaging about 250 permits. Right now, we're averaging the last 6 months, I'm averaging about over 400 inspections a month
400 more.
and over 400 permits a month. And right now, probably out of the 400 inspections, I'm doing 65% myself. Those are different levels. you know.
Yes.
So we're short, but we're making it up, and we're getting there close. But the growth is tremendous, and I always tell Chuck and Chief back here, we talk and stuff, and you know, when they come down the road with their lights are going on and all the pretty trucks and everything, that's because they're responders. But we have to be there first to make sure we do our jobs. They don't have to do that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so we're out here making sure life, health, and safety is in
Right.
accordance with state code too. So, and so yeah, we're overwhelmed, but we're bent, but we're not broken.
Mm-hmm.
So we're just, the numbers have just increased tremendously, especially in the last 6, 7 months. And we got all these apartment complexes coming.
Yeah.
And like I said before in our retreat, just imagine if you got one apartment building that's got 24 apartments in it, which is what the average. Each apartment in that building, each apartment building
Have to be
has over
inspected.
300 inspections.
Wow.
Just that one building.
Mhm.
So, and when you start building apartment complexes with 9, 10, 11, 15 buildings, all this other stuff we do.
Right.
You know, 'cause what we always hear about is new construction. We don't hear about people remodels, cell towers. I mean, all that, if you put a North Carolina, we inspect it.
Right.
You know, so all that comes into play too. So the numbers have increased tremendously, but thanks to our management, they're supporting us and they're helping us out. And 'cause I'm gonna be honest with you, the inspection department has run on fumes for a long time,
Mm-hmm.
and we're not Bayberry no more. We haven't been for a long time. It's-
Right.
With the increase in revenues from permitting and inspections, would that increase based over the actual cost to run the department? Is there enough money there to cover another position?
Yes, ma'am. And it
Because
should
that's
be-
what my thoughts are. Your
Yes.
your money
Agreed
that's
that.
brought in can be used for personnel. Is that correct?
This department only.
That's what I'm
Yes,
saying, only
right.
for him.
And it's we,
Actually, the positions that was requested in next year's budget.
Yeah.
We're hiring this year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's why it's not recommended in next year's
Right.
budget. It's starting in a couple of weeks.
Right.
So you're gonna get a budget amendment in June.
Mhm.
Got 2 budget amendments coming, one for police and one for
Okay.
inspection. To cover that position in the
And
current
that
year.
decision was made, because Kenny came in with it, I think they had 30 inspections apiece one day.
no, I had 67 inspections in one day, and I did
One
50
day.
of them.
And this is
And I'm
when
like, I
Ray
can't.
was out, we didn't know when this was back. I didn't think they could last till July.
Right.
For an interview to try to find, it's just as difficult to find good workers. Just
Yes,
as
it is.
difficult to find employees.
Mhm.
So when I talked, and I said, look, Kenny, advertise it now, you can't wait. So this is what I mean by, there are some very tough decisions we gotta
Mhm.
make. Or the alternative is something we probably.
Proactive.
But-
These positions are hard to fill. Like Mr. Marley, he can tell you, you've been looking for a level 3 fire inspector, how long?
Since
Yeah.
July last year.
They're hard to find.
Yeah.
There's
I-
But I think in the past, the concern has been there wasn't that revenue coming in, and now there's revenue coming in, and that's probably gonna continue to come in because of the way we're growing. And the other thing that, is, have we ever considered any contracted services? Cause I remember, our previous inspectors at some point in time were contracted to go somewhere to help another town.
There's
Is
a
that
shortage of
something we've
everything.
tried?
There's a
Huh?
There's
shortage.
shortage, yes.
Spring, I'll give you an example. Spring Lakes called me once a week for the last 3 months.
Okay, so we're
I
not,
might do
Right.
contract service with them. By the time I get off of work here,
it's too
I'll
late.
give out.
Yeah.
Right, that's
I can't.
understandable.
So there's a shortage of that also.
Okay.
It's just across the board. Inspectors are retiring,
Mhm.
and they're just not, those positions aren't being fulfilled because, quite frankly, people just can't pass the certifications and the test.
Mm-hmm. Madam Mayor,
A new
based,
class we need to organize.
based on what Kenny and the interim town manager said, Is it any way possible that we
PCC.
can be somewhat proactive to be based on the permits and the revenue coming in for that department on the sole source, that we can even look at an additional position?
That's what we did.
No. On top of that one, based on what he just described, and based on the fact that you don't know when this other one is coming back, we already in the hole.
Well, Mr. Reeves will be back May 22nd.
Hopefully be back.
Yeah, he's been cleared to come back
Okay.
the 22nd by his doctor. I just don't know how long he's going to be back.
Right.
He
See,
can retire at any time.
and that's what I'm talking about. See,
Then if he does, we fill that position.
We put that position. I can
But-
sustain it with myself and 3 other inspectors. I can sustain it. It's just that we have to bring folks in. I have to train them up.
that's what I'm talking about. The training and everything considered.
I think the middle ground, what Mr. Mitchell is saying is, what Kenny's saying is, I think we can manage now. By comparison, we have so many inspectors in the city of Fayetteville, they only hire by trade. So they have electrical inspectors who only do electrical.
Right.
Mechanical who only do mechanical. And I'll tell you how lucky we are. We have 2 level 3 inspectors. I don't know of another municipality in the area that has 2. He could be out of retiring how many years?
3.5, 4 years.
3.5.
That's what
They
I'm
can
saying.
retire anytime soon.
Right.
How long have you been looking for a level 3?
For a year.
For a year?
See, that's what I'm talking
So
about.
This is what I mean when I'm saying we gotta have some pretty sober conversations.
Right.
We're trying to have that, we're actively looking forward with decisions we need to make.
And that's all I'm saying. Hey, start now. I mean, hey.
Thank you.
Madam
Or-
Mayor,
Yes.
because ideally it's called succession planning. So ideally you would need to get somebody in
Right.
now and have them help them get through the certifications or whatever they need.
While we're doing that, they're increasing their fee schedules to get
Right.
people coming in to justify the actual amount that we need to hire additional. Too popular after the 5% cut. So we go back again, tell them it's me, but I wanna see where else they can cut, and some people came back, we can't.
And it's gonna require another vehicle.
We're cutting service.
Yeah.
See, every time you hire one, you gotta have a vehicle too, right?
You have, every time you fund a position, there are 2 things you have to do. You have the benefits, you probably get an additional 20 then you gotta get a truck. That's what if you're talking code enforcement, you're talking police, you gotta be police vehicle. You're
The
talking
sheet that I
about,
gave you earlier.
Yeah.
It shows certain positions have to have a vehicle,
Right.
certain positions don't.
we got a public safety building getting ready to open, police, fire action, 3 firemen. Couldn't get it. And so, that's what I want everybody to understand, that with this balanced budget, we are still looking at a major
Shortfall.
in the amount of staff we have. We're doing it, and like Mayor Pro Tem McCray said, it's almost like succession planning. How can we come up with a very creative, multi-pronged approach to keep money coming back into the department, to identify where we may have some holes and where we have some things that we can't figure out.
Since we've identified that we know we need something in inspections and code enforcement, why, we're just sort of putting our heads together over here, why couldn't we look at FTCC and ask them about the potential there? Because, I mean, they're picking up areas where somebody needs that training. And it might be that there'd be something, since we know we need them, Hope County needs them, Federal, everybody's needing them, maybe we could get them to
Off that train.
offer some type of training that we could then have it. Yes, sir?
I just want to say, NCDOI, North Carolina Department of Insurance,
Uh-huh.
owns us. They instituted about 2 years ago, an internship, so to speak, and they're still trying to get one. Yeah, they went into high school, and they've come out, and they're getting a little bit at a time, but, I mean, they're closing the gap, but it's gonna take years. The average age for a level 3 inspector on North Carolina is 58 and a half years old. That's the level I'm talking about, my property trade. And folks are just not wanting to come in because the outside entities are paying more. I can't hire a level 3 inspector in salary pay because he's a superintendent or she's a superintendent over here at the job site, making $40,000-$50,000 more than what we can offer.
Yeah.
So, some people just can't see past that, and I can't,
Yeah.
that's what we're competing with, so,
You know what?
that's why you don't see a lot of young inspectors walking around, because
Mm-hmm.
Now, young guys are out there making that big money, it's hard to do
Yeah, okay.
Madam Mayor.
Yes, sir.
But what about Fort Bragg? You know, that's a possibility. A program like that could, you know, would go. I'm telling you that they would probably look into that. I'm not an engineer, never worked in that field, you know, but that might be something for consideration because you have a lot of guys retiring all the time. They don't want a real job. I mean, not saying it's not a real job, but I mean, they don't mind taking that pay cut.
Thanks, Grill.
You know what I'm saying?
No offense.
Yeah, no offense, there, really, but
Madam Mayor, may I?
Yes, sir.
I don't know how many members of this board understand what an inspector's job really is.
Oh, yes, sir.
It's your safety, and they're first in line. And then it goes down to the fire department and police department. But being a retired builder, I'm very familiar with what the inspectors do. They make sure that we did the job the way we were supposed to do it. And if they told us you got to redo it, you have to redo it. But they're looking out for the citizens. So, Kenny, I appreciate everything you guys do.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Thank you.
All departments, all departments.
Okay, we're over now to tab 12, and that's streets.
Streets. Mm-hmm.
Any questions on this one?
No, the tax that we get to do that with is not enough. We got, streets still got holes.
Mosquito spraying.
I think Don and them do the best they can
Oh, yeah, they do a good job.
to try to keep up with these streets.
Okay, anything on that area? Questions? None? All right, next is 13, and that would be sanitation. Any questions there?
I got a question.
Okay.
If this, I'm gonna call it sublet, that we rent out, lease out, that we don't do anymore, if they have to buy a new truck, we have to participate in the cost of that truck?
No, that is strictly part of the contract, and we don't participate financially.
The contract stuff.
Well, I just wondering, because it doesn't seem like there's a lot of money to be made there for the contractor. But again, I appreciate everything you guys do.
Okay. Tab 14, Parks and Rec. Any questions there?
I'm about out of tabs.
Yeah, you about out of tips. I mean,
I
we're doing a
got
good
35
job.
minutes left.
I would just ask one question. I know we said that we was gonna give everybody $5,000 across the board, and I will say it again: if the committees are not justifying that $5,000, we need to look back at look at what they did the last year or the last 2 years, and if they have not provided anything to justify that money, you just shave it back to what they're actually gonna do, you know. Because right now, just give them, hey, here you go, just do what you want to with it. I think that's what some of them be doing. You know, don't give it to them. That's just my opinion.
I got a question.
Okay.
So, we're on 14, correct? I just want to make sure I'm not going.
Yeah.
Okay. For the line item for church parish house, and that's $6,000,
Which one?
that is that just strictly for the upkeep of the church itself?
Maintenance and any expense that has to go with the church itself, the bathrooms, the new parking lot, that whole
Okay, so it's
area
separate.
there.
For
Yeah,
maintenance.
Keep it going and up to date.
Okay, just wanted to see if that was separate from like the HPC's budget, so.
Right, we're done with the project.
Okay.
Yep. That's that 264 that I just did the budget amendment at the last meeting. That's
Yeah.
covered.
Okay.
That
Also,
was for the project.
can we possibly remove the Sunshine Committee since we
Yes.
don't have one? Just remove that line item altogether?
Yeah.
We can, but if you look, there was budget for them last year, it's zeroed down.
Okay.
So that'll come out next
Just leave it,
year.
yeah. If we don't
It's
have.
all zeros, I take it out.
Okay.
But there's a number there, I still have to keep it in until
Okay.
it
Gotcha.
goes away.
Okay.
Okay. I just have a question, and that would be on page 21, because I'm wondering,
Page
that
21.
a fence at Thomas Oakman Chapel, is there not a better price than $35,000? I mean, I'm thinking that chain link fence that's up there now is not, but I know that, I'm asking, that seems high for a fence when you're only covering that area and not go a 8-foot fence, because that chain link fence is not very attractive. Go ahead.
So, and the number probably changed, so as far as ornamental fencing goes, you're looking at $187 a linear foot for,
Page you
the decorative, we call it decorative fence. So,
Mhm.
when you look at that length, that's about, that's the estimate I got from the fencing company.
What's it made out of?
It's aluminum.
Okay.
That's why it's more expensive than
Yes.
steel.
Now, if you went wrought iron, it'd be even more expensive.
Well,
So
no, I was just
aluminum
thinking-
is the
Yeah.
cheaper option.
I
Now,
was
if you
just
went chain
thinking-
link,
yeah.
if you went chain link, vinyl coated black, you could get a little cheaper, but, you know, it's my understanding because of the historic, you know, look of the church and, you know, that whole historic, flavor. The
Yeah.
ornamental,
That's
ornamental
fence
fence
behind
is
the
what
church,
you all
Yeah,
looking at.
fence, the
Behind
fence,
the
yeah,
church.
that, yeah.
Similar to the one that we have, or that we had, over by the library part.
Mm-hmm.
Same type
It's
of.
not the able to come away with it. We're talking about fences at that church, which looks like that ornamental black.
It would look better.
You want just need on the backside though, right?
Just need it down that side by Dr. Rayner's and then across the back.
Don't Dr. Raymond use our parking lot?
Yes.
So why we need a fence there?
Well, to help direct pedestrian traffic and, you know,
So
and we are looking at, well,
But just use, for safety.
for safety, and we're looking at, well, we are gonna eventually have to put the arm gate back up because with rentals coming on board, we need some way to control vehicular traffic in the event
Okay.
somebody rented, because with the rental comes guaranteed parking. So that's
Okay.
the way to control, you know,
All right.
you know, public parking with Dr. Rayner's office and other people. So the fence and the gate will be for health, safety, and for, you know, controlling vehicular and pedestrian traffic.
Well, Marco, may I ask you a question? Madam Mayor, may I?
Yes, sir.
An easy one, please.
Challenge you.
Not room to build a ballpark there, is there? If one of his customers happens to run into the fence and tear it up, are we responsible for it, or will he have to repair it?
That's a good question. Well, if we can prove that, you know, somebody else is responsible for it, then naturally we're gonna try to go after
Right.
that person. But, you know, we don't have it just yet, but we are looking at cameras.
Okay,
Cameras
I was
help
gonna
us.
say,
Yes, cameras.
That's in the
mount some
budget.
cameras there,
Yeah, we
Yeah.
need cameras. there.
because that's gonna get hit eventually. So we may have to set it back on our property a little bit, or, a lot of these traffic,
So,
parking
if we
lot.
Get in, my understanding that wasn't funded, so.
all those bumpers.
But the cameras wasn't funded?
No, the cameras were, the fencing is,
That's what-
Oh, yes,
as
wasn't
of yet,
If the,
but I
if
know it's not a done
the,
deal.
if the fence,
We'll talk about it
fencing,
next year then.
if the fencing were to be donated, is there a possibility that you could provide that, whatever your estimate was, and so that it could be possibly donated?
Yep.
Okay,
Definitely do that.
there might be,
Yeah, out of curiosity, where did you get, like, I mean, this is really getting into it, but where'd you get estimates from for the fence?
We generally go through Seeger Fencing. Seeger.
Okay,
they-
so
they're-
an actual
yeah,
fencing
They're pretty
company.
quick about coming out and giving
Okay.
us estimates on stuff, just for budgetary reasons. Without having, you know, still got to go through the bidding process, but for budgetary reasons, they're pretty good about coming out and giving us quotes on things.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got many quotes from Seeger and, what was the other one, Acme Fence?
They're a little bit more on the pricier side.
So they'll come out and price it for you.
what height did you price it at?
6 feet.
6 feet?
Yep.
Okay.
I think 4 feet. You know, anybody.
Right,
Hop
six,
over.
Run it,
six
jump,
feet
jump
makes
over.
sense, yeah.
I have one other question too, on,
So one of us is gonna question no matter what it is.
yeah, and this is pretty easy though. I mean, your appearance committee is asking for lake projects require funding, benches and swings, 2,200. But if, I thought a couple years back, we talked about being, uniform and the benches and stuff that was purchased, and I thought that the Parks and Recs was gonna purchase us a series of benches across the board.
Now, where are they? I'm not really familiar with the appearance committee asked for.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but
You
no,
can relook at it
you're,
and
you're
see.
correct. You're correct.
Yes.
And anything the appearance committee comes up with, we actually do have say so because we are looking for a standard as far as
Right.
what our benches, you know, what they look like out here and what they look like at the lake, and that whole, you know, for instance, the benches at the lake have a totally different feel than what we have here at Parks and Recreation. We go with a fiberglass type bench, whereas at the lake and that whole historic, if you want to call it historic-ish district of Main Street, we're going with the aluminum historic-looking fence
Right.
and lighting, et cetera. So,
Okay.
so whatever they order, it's going to have to be on that same palette that we're talking
Right.
about.
Same thing, the Christmas decoration they requested,
Yep.
because you can't buy too much, $1,500, you can't buy no good quality stuff with that.
Well, we actually phased that. If you look at the budget, we actually phased that and to do 3 phases with the Christmas decorations.
Okay.
Per y'all's request.
That's all I have.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, ma'am.
But the appearance commission is asking for Christmas bowls as well. Their budget was like $600.
They-
So that's why I was trying to like,
Yeah,
because
Christmas
we
bowl.
are purchasing bowls this year, right?
Okay, so phase 1 of the new decorations, we are doing some lights, but mainly garlands, ribbons, and wreaths. We're gonna start there and then gradually get into replacing all the lights because of the cost. I mean, the total
Right.
cost of that
It
was like
makes sense.
$45,000,
And
and we broke that up.
Right. I
So
thought
we are
said
doing
that.
both. We are gonna do bows and garlands. So I'm not really sure why they asked for additional.
Yeah, they have
So
it
go
as
back
an
and look at their
additional.
budget.
Yeah.
Okay, with request. I'm on that committee, they gonna hate me.
Okay.
Which theme was selected?
Say it again?
Which theme, when you did your survey, which theme was selected for
Oh, yeah.
Christmas?
What did I do?
I can't remember. I don't have the numbers. I don't have the numbers. I think that's what the pricing came for as far as the lighting.
You talking about budget.
Well, that money for they had price estimates for the different,
For the thing?
Yeah.
the different ones, yeah.
Right.
That's why I'm thinking which one was selected, because one of them was more expensive, and then one of them was kind of just, you know. Anyway, that was the reason.
Okay.
Did you do the survey, sir?
What survey?
See
So-
there?
oh, God.
All right, we
The
walked
type of
with.
light, the lights was a big item, and so we kind of wanted to get feedback from everybody.
And I did
I
that
just,
long- if the
I was
one that
looking
came
at
out
other areas
several
on the
months
tip of
ago.
my.
Yeah, it's several months
Yeah, I
ago.
did that then, when it
It's
first
right
came
after
out.
Christmas.
And I did it right after it came out then.
Yeah,
I think one of the big issues, especially with all the committees, is because the committees are not talking to each other. A
Right.
lot of them are looking to buy the same stuff from different points of view, and it's like,
They need to go back to you all and,
Well, and I'll say this, you know, out of all the committees, the one committee that we actually work closely with, that actually helps us with our decision-making and governance to some extent, is the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board.
Right.
And they never ask for any money, and, you know, they don't ask for any funding, but, so just to give you an idea, so some of the other committees that we interact with aren't really Parks and Recreation related, but,
yeah,
you know.
that's understandable.
Madam Mayor, but we asked for them to all, and I'm saying this to you,
To-
we asked for them all to meet together, and that never happened.
Right.
Where all of the committees or the chairs of the committee got together, because they are overlapping with events, and we're not talking to one another. So like, we should be combining Christmas events, or like Community
Yes.
Day, and what Prime Movers was just
Think this
did,
out.
was just 2 or 3 weeks
I will say
apart.
the willingness is there to meet, because I've talked to both the Historic Preservation Committee, I've talked to some members, well, some of the members from the Historic Committee is also my Parks and Recreation Board. And they are very, very open to meeting and doing some joint projects, so we are gonna plan that. I think at our last board meeting, Parks and Recreation Board meeting, they did say, and they had the desire to meet with the Appearance Committee and Historic Preservation Committee, so they could coordinate,
yeah.
you know, maybe one event a year and really just,
And
wind
probably
a lot of
yeah,
those
the Veterans
events down to
Committee,
just
yeah,
one.
the
It's
Veterans
all of 'em.
Committee also.
and like the Veterans Committee, because we had purchased some of the benches before,
Right,
and,
right,
you know,
that's
and so
another
that
one.
kind of
So-
overlaps
so-
with the appearance and everyone
But
else.
if I'm not mistaken though, I think the directive was pushed already that, that the Parks and Recs get together and come up with a calendar, and with that calendar coming in place, it's gonna require everybody to get together and meet anyway.
And you all have the calendar, right? I
Huh?
want to say we shared the calendar with y'all, have we not? Okay.
Now is Lamarco and his group has developed a calendar. We're, Mark and I are working on a policy that will
Mhm.
liaisons. I'm even trying to come with a bi-monthly, committee chair meeting where all of that comes out together. So I do think the policy piece come with the calendar should streamline a whole lot of these issues in terms of
Right.
the cost they're requesting each year for the budget, overlapping meetings and things of that nature. I do think that should actually, because we've been pulling finance in on how to streamline a whole lot of the processes tied. So I do think
All right.
Well, I think when we had the Lake Celebration Committee, it was all of the committee chairs plus maybe the vice chair, and then we had the volunteers that wanted to help on that committee. And what we gained from that was they actually did a combined budget, and for each event, it was all set up. And that meetings that
great.
we had, and I know both of these were a part of that, but that committee really, not only did it help facilitate things, but it also, you didn't overspend because they all prepared for those events, and it was all during 4th of July. Remember, it was that,
From 4th of July to October.
yeah, and so what we ended up with was the possibilities of each group having not only input, but then the chair would go back and share with the group, this is what we need you to do. We main thing was need to get them, if we can get them all focused again on the same, whatever it is, you know, because I think that's what, just like when you're thinking, we had the family event, you had the community day event, those two could have been combined.
Right.
Those were very similar, you know,
And Prime Owners, we do the same thing. We'll do a fall, because that's their anniversary. We'll do something in the fall, but then we'll turn around and have some kind of big thing
Yes.
for like Old Mill Day. But if you cut down those budgets, because we might not be able to give each committee $5,000, you cut down those budgets, they might have to be creative and start like collaborating. So, you know, before that time happens, or if it happens, it's beneficial if people will work together to kind of combine
Right.
some of these events instead of
I think
doing.
that too, and then something else I know Chance is working on is, you know, kind of like goals and what the intent is. I was telling Mr. McLaughlin that in our ordinance, it spells out what our Parks and Recreation Board, what their purpose is and what their, you know, essentially their jobs is, what the liaison job is. I don't know that we have that for the other committees, but we need that. So it's really clear to them what their roles are, what their bylaws are, et cetera. So I think that's something else we can work on, and probably write an ordinance, because I couldn't find anything related to the other committees, ordinance-wise, what their purpose is.
We have one for the prime movers. Sometimes we have like bylaws and things. It's a matter of implementing what we already have. But
Right.
we actually do have bylaws, so it's probably need to go back and revisit them.
and there are some, in one of our policy manuals, you would have something for each of the committees too.
Yep.
Because that was one of the things the attorney had to preview to make sure we had a description for each one. So there's somewhere there is a description, because the only one that's a commission now is the appearance committee. Because used to be, they were the only one that got money.
Right.
So that was the reason, but that's been, I'm not sure when that was done, but I know we should have a description somewhere.
Under Commissioner Lawson, when she was on the board.
Yeah.
But that's how the change came about.
All right, anything else under Parks and Rec? Any questions? Okay, tab 15 is stormwater.
Well, you know, we never have enough questions with them.
Yeah, I only have one question. It has nothing to do with
have a
budget.
question when something happens.
Huh?
We only have a
Yeah.
question if something happens wrong.
That's
They
right.
like the fire department.
And Ms. Brown, and it's not really related to the budget, but it is something, the new homes that are on Stone Street and Patterson Street, there seems to be a drainage issue, a problem down there, and, you know, it looks like there's a little indention all at each one of the places. Is that where stormwater run? Anyway, the question has been asked, did they overbuild or something not right? Because where's the flooding gonna go?
So each of those houses, the developer chose to do it that way. We typically recommend one feature on one lot, and he did not want to lose an extra house. So he chose to put infiltration basins at each home. Don actually got a call from the first homeowner today asking if they could fill the hole in. Obviously, the answer was no. And hopefully Don told him to go back to the developer and But this
Same
way.
person must have called me.
Well, this way, the infiltration basin belongs to each house, so when the developer's done,
They can fill
They
it
done.
Oh,
out.
my goodness. So if it doesn't work, it's the homeowner's problem.
correct. But they do have some repair work to do because there was supposed to be a drainage ditch and the lots were supposed to be a lot flatter. They were supposed to do grading work, but we were in a big rush to get a lot of houses up pretty quickly, so now we have to fix the driveways that are draining into the roadway. Well, we don't, they
Yeah,
do.
they do, okay.
Okay.
Well, I know it's not related to budget, but it was it's something that right now, there's concern because the yards flooded when we had the quick downpour. Okay, any questions for stormwater, anything in the budget y'all have a concern about?
Yes, ma'am. I haven't caught any fish in none of these holes yet, so.
They have not been stocked yet, sir. That's coming in next year's budget.
Thank you.
Make sure we get rockfish.
Okay,
Yes, we'll get that one.
thank you,
Thank you, Beth.
And Commissioner Marley would like you all to know that he has a hole in his yard, and Stormwater is refusing to repair that due to budgetary constraints.
All right, having gone through all the tabs now, is there anything else that you have that were questions that you probably wrote down somewhere and brought them with you? You got questions?
Oh, man.
I have no question. I have some concerns that they will be answered as the projects go on. But I just appreciate everything that the department heads and Drew's done to get this budget put together for our consideration and hopefully the residents' consideration. Be and I will, and you already know, Mayor, I'm the proud grandpa of a drum major for Southview High School for next year.
All right.
That is only a freshman.
Congratulations.
What they got to do with the budget? Just kidding.
I'm proud of that.
All right.
I'm sorry. Mayor, I got one thing.
Yes, okay.
Hope nobody took offense. Hoping it had
No,
been tone earlier, but
No, good business.
if the town manager's recommendation is for a tax increase, and this board considers it, I would just ask that, like we talked about earlier, just bring back more documentation or more justification when the budget's presented for approval. If
Yes.
that would be okay with the rest of the board.
I agree.
Yep.
Yes. And,
Okay, well, this change, I will go ahead and be making from the version you got and the one that will be presented. If y'all approve that loan extension tonight, then that debt service amount will come out, the $595,000. Then that extra appropriation from fund balance, the $533,000, that comes out as well. Won't be using that. And then I'm gonna add the position that we put in this year's budget, the inspector. I've got to add that position into next year's, because we
Okay.
took that position out.
Okay.
I've gotta put that position back in as a, just because it's happening this year, we have to fund it next year. So those will be the three changes, and it'll equal the debt service amount.
Okay.
all right.
Now, we'll,
Have they not said that?
we're gonna,
Do that
this,
we gave them the budget?
they just set this meeting, so set the
Could we set it for a later date?
set the public hearing for the first meeting in June? Is that correct? Yeah, first meeting in June, which is
First-
June, what's the date?
June the 5th?
All right, June 5th, public hearing, and we want it to start at 7 o'clock, or we want to do it prior to the meeting?
I mean, there's not gonna be much of a discussion, is it?
No, it's part of the meeting.
Okay,
Part
but
of
do
the
we
meeting,
want to do
yes.
anything before that? Is there, in other words,
No.
do y'all want to come back if there's,
Anything
Do-
else?
yeah,
I don't think we would need to, would we?
I would say if you have any questions between now and then, let us know.
Okay.
We'll just make it part of it.
right? Because before we actually adopt the budget, we have to have public comments, and then we can also go back and, make changes if necessary before we adopt the final
Finalize it anyway,
budget.
right.
So the main thing is just understanding that anything you see in this, if you can go ahead and get that information to Chance or to Mr. McLaughlin and to Mr. Holland, and they can do that before the June 5th meeting.
Sounds like a
But
plan.
we need a motion to set the public hearing for the budget for June 5th.
I make a motion.
Have a motion, budget
Second.
hearing will be June 5th at 7 p.m.
Okay.
All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Seeing none opposed. At this time, we will be adjourning this special meeting, and we will start back at 7 o'clock for our regular meeting.
Two questions.